So I have put off making this story public, telling my story, whatever. I was given advice at the end of the story um, that maybe telling my story would help me process it, help me cope with it, help me heal from it. And I kind of ignored the advice. I thought, like I always think, that I'll just handle it. Time heals all wounds. Um, I just get over it eventually. Um, with the amount of time that's passed, that has pretty much become not the case. The way I talk to people, the way I process things, the way I see things, everything. Um, it's obvious that there are still scars, and whether me telling this story helps people or not, whether it helps me or not, maybe someone will hear it, maybe it'll make a difference. We'll see, I guess. So, I guess to start, the major point of this is not to come at it from an angle where I'm some MRA or some MGTOW or feminist hating, woman bashing, whatever. This is a story that just involves me, my ex girlfriend, and it's nothing more than that. My views personally after are what they are, but none of that is what I'm trying to push in this. Just trying to tell my story, see what comes of it, ramble on for an hour and a half maybe, and see where it goes. And if it helps someone, it helps someone. If it doesn't, it doesn't. If it helps me, great. So it's obviously a story of me and my ex's breakup. I guess I'll try to keep time frame out of this. It's not incredibly a big deal, other than the fact it's been about a year and a half, and I'm still finding it hard to heal the wounds that I'm suffering from. So here we go. I was with a girl. Let's leave her nameless. She's just gonna be the girl. She's just gonna be my ex. She's just gonna be my girlfriend for placement of time. She'll be my girlfriend when she was my girlfriend in this story. I was with a girl for 9.5 years. Met on social media. It doesn't really matter. A lot of it doesn't matter. It's the end that matters. But I guess it really starts, the tail and the point I want people to hear starts from the middle. We're together for about 3 years, maybe 4 years, whatever. We move in together. She loses her job. Whatever. I'll pick up some bills. You'll get a job. Whatever. She eventually kind of just does away with looking for the job and doesn't become a big deal to her. She finds solace in the bottom of bottles of alcohol. It's not really that big a deal. You know, she had her side gigs that she did. She brought in a little money. She just didn't have anything, I guess, permanent. Anything that would bring anything on a schedule. So the drinking wasn't even that bad. It was just kind of a here and there thing. I can't lie. I participated in it. It's what it is. Time goes on. We move from apartment to apartment. Things are slowly getting worse. The drinking gets worse. The looking for a job doesn't happen. It's really just going downhill. I guess the thing that blinded me most to all of it is a personal family issue where something similar happens and it ends up working itself out. And while I was young, I saw it, I witnessed it, and it was kind of the expectation, or what I thought, what I hoped would happen during what we were going through. I find out now that the people close to me that struggled through this and ended up on the other side of it better are the exception to the rule. And I am more of what normally happens. So my girlfriend at the time is the drinking's getting worse, the unemployment's getting worse. We move into one last place. Rent is really cheap. I figure if I take the financial issues out of the equation, something I can afford on my own, she can just be there, she can get better. Great. We move into this last place, and the drinking is just through the roof at this point. Whatever her personal issues are, they are what they are. It's right around this time as well that I'm starting to get fed up with it. It's a daily thing. We'd have our fights, obviously, but it's at this point that the fights would get violent from her end. I'm kind of a big dude. I'm 6'7", I weigh 280 pounds. She's 5'7", 120, 130 pounds. Like, not gonna do damage to me. And that's kind of the attitude I had when we would argue and she would get violent with me. I'd just take it, shrug it off. There's no way she's doing damage to me. So I didn't care. I knew it wasn't right. I told her it wasn't right. At the end of arguments when it came around, she would agree that it wasn't right. But it never changed the next time an argument came around. Whether the alcohol was what was inducing the violence or if it was just her. It became a normal thing. But I always wanted it to get better. Like, I loved the girl a lot. I was expecting to spend the rest of my life with her. Just not willing to make commitments until things showed that they got better. So I sat idle and wasted a lot of time pretty much doing this routine on the daily, week after week, month after month, year after year. The drinking kept up, the unemployment kept up, the arguments and the violence kept up. And there were just fewer and fewer good days, but I kept hoping things would get better. The small glimpses of her sobriety were golden. She was back to the person she used to be. Nice, caring, smiled, laughed, we could joke, all that stuff. But those were very few and far between. Like, it was almost just the luckiest roll of the dice to get those days. But whatever. So I guess in the interest of speeding the story along, because there's a lot of minor things, I guess it all just falls under the umbrella of alcoholism, unemployment, arguments that come from it. I finally kind of just hit a breaking point where I have taken out loan after loan. I've maxed out credit cards. I've borrowed money from friends and family. It's just over. There's no more slack on the rope. And it's either cut the rope or get hung by it at this point. And I decided that it was just time to cut the rope. It's just a little shitty that the sunk cost fallacy couldn't have hit me in the head a little bit harder. There was just so much time. I thought about time, effort, years, my age, what comes after. It was just bad. So in the effort of giving her enough time, I put in a 4-month, 4-month notice to the landlord saying, we're going to be out of here. I tell her, and I also tell her that we're done. Officially, we will cohabitate in the apartment. But as far as the relationship goes, physically, everything, it's all over. We're done. There will be no more arguing because there's no more relationship to argue over. I'll pay the rent. I'll pay the bills. I'll pay everything. You just need to know that you have a limited amount of time to get out, and that's what you need to focus on. I'll take care of everything else one way or another. Within 2 or 3 weeks, she has some dude she's dating, eventually becomes her boyfriend, whatever. I didn't care. Like, to say I didn't care is a lie. Obviously, it hits a little bit in the heart. It doesn't feel good, especially when you start to think, like, there's probably some communication going on between these two to whatever degree while you were still in a relationship for someone to rebound that quickly. But there was a part of me that just always saw her as leaning on others because she couldn't stand on her own, so it was expected to some degree. Like, it wasn't a surprise. I decided to tell her, I don't care what you're doing, I don't care who you're with. That person does not enter this house. We both live here, you will respect me at least to that degree. And we agree, and it's fine. Couple of weeks go by, and she's coming home with bruises and whatnot. So, to get to the point, obviously, this guy is not the biggest fan of her drinking either, except this is a gentleman who is not above hitting a woman. If she is also sticking in her rhythm and getting angry and hitting him, and he just doesn't have the ability to not hit back, whatever, so be it. There's one day in particular that she's really drunk. I guess a small side story is the alcohol issues were getting so bad that she would withdraw and have seizures, and I'd have to take her to the hospital. It turned into a pretty common thing. Even if she wasn't having a seizure, she would feel like she was going to withdraw and have seizures, so I'd take her to the hospital. One time in particular, I take her. This is after a couple of weeks of her boyfriend beating up on her, and for whatever reason, she is just going to accept that as her life now. So the ex-girlfriend at this point is extremely wasted, like gone, but I'll take her to the hospital. She requests to go to the hospital. She's going to call an ambulance anyway. I might as well do the nice thing and take her to the hospital and fill out her paperwork like I always did, because she's not filling it out on her own in this state. We go. We fill out all her paperwork. The nursing staff or whoever, I guess, decides that this is the time they see the bruises on her and they want to question her. Whatever it is she says, this is kind of a glimpse into the future. Whatever it is she says, it implicates me. I obviously never laid a finger on her, so it is what it is. I don't get to know this just yet. Me and her are texting normally, because like I said, this has gone on multiple times. She goes in, she gets pre-checked, all that stuff. She gets put in a room. I'm usually sitting down a hallway or whatever, and then I get to go see her and hang out with her until they either let her out or I'm tired of sitting there and I go home. This time, not the case. I get left where I filled out her paperwork, and then eventually they say they're running a lot of tests on her, and I need to wait in the waiting room. Different, but it doesn't seem weird. So I'm waiting in the waiting room. It's an hour and a half at this point. Me and her are texting back and forth. I'm asking, why can't I come in? If I can't come in, I'm just going to go. She's texting me back. I don't know. I'm telling them to let you in. They're not letting you in. Whatever. Girl's wasted. She apparently doesn't even know what she said. So time goes by, and I'm like, fuck it. It's time to go. I'm leaving. You can call me when you need a ride home, whatever. I go home. She comes home the next day. She got picked up by an Uber or whatever. I wake up, go to work. Normal day. A couple normal days, in fact. It's not for 2 weeks. 2 weeks eventually. That eventually the day comes. Again, me and her are in an argument. I am telling her, at this point, it's like 6 weeks until we're done with the apartment and we gotta go. She hasn't done anything. She's just sat and drank and done nothing. So I'm telling her the facts of the matter, and because the facts are harsh and this isn't a situation where anything's going to change, and she needs to realize the gravity of the situation, she's just extremely upset that there's no way out this time. So the argument happens, and I go and sit at my computer and play whatever it is I'm playing, some MMO, whatever. Hour or so later, we get a knock at the door, and it's the police. They ask who I am. I tell them. They ask me to come outside. I do. They handcuff me. I am arrested. Because alongside the hospital situation, which they were going to come for me for anyways, my ex-girlfriend decided that the facts of the matter were too harsh and I was being mean and I needed the police called on me. So she called the police and said that there was a domestic violence situation happening at our place. They came. They arrested me. They didn't question me at all until we were at the police station, but that's skipping ahead a little bit. Obviously, I'm wearing pajamas or something, so I asked to put clothes on, and they let me. So she makes some comment as I'm on the way out saying that I deserve this, whatever it is. I go to jail. This isn't going to be a normal, domestic violence thing. I am tagged with domestic violence with GBI, Great Bodily Injury, which comes from the hospital incident, because she has bruising on her neck and on her arms, and her face is swollen. They assume that I abused her so badly that I put her in the hospital. When the documents eventually come around, I am accused of strangling my ex-girlfriend to a state of unconsciousness, and when she wakes up, punching her in the face. Not something I would ever do, not something I did. Not to mention, again, I'll just bring it up, I am 6'7", 280 pounds, and for what it's worth, I do have a black belt in Taekwondo, and I did some boxing. I know how to throw a punch, and if you're the type of individual who will strangle someone to a state of unconsciousness, you're probably also not above holding back on a punch. And if I'm going to punch a girl in the face who weighs over 100 pounds less than me, I'm probably going to put a crater where my fist lands. And this girl has like light bruising that's turning yellow from how old it is, and almost not even noticeable as a bruise in the first place. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Not in California, at least. If a girl calls the police saying there's domestic violence, the police have to make an arrest. There's no, oh, just leave the house for tonight and don't come back until tomorrow. It doesn't work that way. So I'm arrested, charged with great bodily injury, which is a felony, which comes with years in prison. So I spend a week in jail before I'm bailed. I am extremely lucky that I have a family that loves me and will go to the extent that they did for me. They helped me with a lawyer. They helped me with a private investigator. All the things that my lawyer said I should do, we did. I move in with my family. Obviously, the debt that I've accrued, the case, the fact that regardless of what happens, that I may end up in jail. There's obviously no reason for me to get an apartment. So the case goes on for a year and 3 months. The details of it, I guess, aren't really important. What is important is that my lawyer and my private investigator are amazing at their jobs, and they get every bit of evidence that they can. It also turns out that the night I was arrested, my very first and almost only statement to the police was that I did none of this, and I know the name of the individual that did, and I said his name. Conveniently for me, after I get out of jail and I am no longer allowed back in that apartment due to a restraining order, the new boyfriend, who is the abusive one, starts living there. And maybe a week later, he's arrested for domestic violence. So it just kind of puts the puzzle pieces of our story together. Works out really well for me in the end. So yeah, eventually the DA is trying to get a hold of her. She's not coming to trial. Whether she did or didn't, it wouldn't have mattered. I'm innocent, and we had mountains to prove it. The case gets dropped. Lack of evidence, whatever it is. What it actually comes down to is that they could not subpoena her to court because they couldn't find her. They didn't know where she was. So I'm let off the hook. Unfortunately, I'm not let off the hook for the lawyer's bills, but I'm not going to prison. I'm not getting a felony. So awesome. Second lease on life. I guess what it comes down to, the story being told in a much briefer fashion than I actually thought it would be told in. The point I guess I want to give is mainly to the guys that you need to value yourself. You need to value your time. I sat in a relationship with a girl who was very pretty, who, not that I lack confidence, but on the physical look side of things, I believed was out of my league and a catch. Not to mention, she had a nice personality. But at the end of the day, if you're going to get put through something like this, that doesn't matter. And the sex will never be worth it. So, the point of the story, I guess, if you decide to take anything away, is that you need to value your time. You need to value yourself. You need to understand that you need to be able to be an individual without someone else. You need to not be codependent on someone else in your life. You need to maintain friendships. You need to maintain a routine that is yours away from your significant other. And if your significant other doesn't like that or tries to take those things away from you slowly over years or whatever, you need to understand that these are red flags. That whether it gets as extreme as my case or worse or not down the road, it's not a feature you want, no matter how good you think the sex is, no matter how pretty she is, no matter what. You need to love yourself more than you love anyone else. And then when you find that person worthy of it, you give them that love, and that's fine. But if you see red flags, you need to have that value that I didn't have for myself to be able to walk away and move on or face the consequences that come potentially down the road. If you decide that you want to stay with an alcoholic thinking that things might get better, there's a chance you can end up in prison or jail, whatever it was. And there's a chance you can be $50,000 in debt to a lawyer and bail and everything. And if you look at the percentages, there's a chance you're probably going to lose. I'm lucky that my ex was an alcoholic and would not show up to court and was impossible to get a hold of. If a girl decides that she wants to just go with it and lie to save face, you're going to end up in jail. And chances are you're going down on something you didn't do, something I hope you wouldn't do. But it is the fact of the matter. So learn from me. Value yourself. Value your time. Value your hobbies. Even things that you or someone else may call a waste of time. Video games, in my case. If it's something you enjoy, that is your thing, and you get that. And if your significant other doesn't like that, compromise, but not too much. You need the things that make you you. And if you can't compromise, then find someone who will be with you for your hobbies and who you are and what you like to do, and will give you that time. Obviously within reason. It's not a giant selfish show where you get what you want and don't have to give anything in return, but do what I didn't do. Value yourself, value your time, and most of all, be able to walk away when the red flags start piling up. Think critically and know that however much it hurts or whatever's going on, there is a future. I'm still in a phase right now where I don't know what that future is. Like I said, I'm making this video because these scars don't seem to be healing right. I don't know what the future holds, but I can say that I know it will be positive. Just get to that point before I did, and know that no matter what someone else says, you're valuable. There's something about you, what you want to do with your time, and who you are that makes you valuable. And don't let someone else take that away from you. And that's the best you can do. Got a little rambly at the end. I hope that something gets through to someone, because I wish that I had this video. before I went through everything I went through. It would have helped a lot. Unfortunately, I didn't. So, in an effort to tell my story in some therapeutic way for myself, I hope that my story helps someone else. For all 7 of you that I'm sure are going to see this. So, if anything in the comments would be appreciated, constructive criticism, insults, whatever, doesn't matter. I can handle the memes. So, write what you think. Hopefully, I helped. But yeah, that's it for now. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it.